Hello, everybody. This is another episode about mountaineering. This will be the second episode in the series of probably 4 or 5 episodes that will cover what you need to know to get started, get going, get your first expedition to be successful. Today, we're going to talk about fitness. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, number 1, it is the most important part of mountaineering, right? Different from perhaps other sports and other adventures where equipment is probably plays a bigger role, or training and practice is also more important. For instance, in things like diving, fitness is the most important aspect of mountaineering, in my opinion. Having done that and being, right now preparing for my first 3-day expedition. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time than usual in my podcasts describing, what is important and why it's important, and how you could actually achieve sort of the level of fitness needed with certain tools and methods that are out there. So I've tested them. Some of them didn't work. Others seem to work well. So first thing is, why is it so important, right? I mean, mountaineering is almost like watching, as I heard this once, watching the grass grow, because it's very slow. You won't see any movies, action movies about, a guy climbing Everest, although they made it. But the actual, walk up the hill thing is kind of boring. But it requires a different level and a different type of fitness. And I'm going to get into the details right now. So think about your body, right? You had the mitochondria producing energy. What you need to do in mountaineering, as it's very similar to other endurance activities or endurance sports, in the sense that you are going to be exercising, right, for very long periods of time. And particularly in mountaineering, you're not going to be eating all the time. So it's not like you're doing the Tour de France on a bike and you grab snacks along the way, high carb, snacks to just fill you while you are racing. It's a much lower intensity pace, but it's probably very long durations. We're talking about, 9, 10, 12 hours long, even longer than that, right? So it's important that your fitness matches what you are going to put your body through. And that really entails teaching your body, and I'm trying to summarize, hours and pages of material that I've read in the last, 9 months since I got my ass kicked at Mount Washington twice. And I was trying to understand what the hell happened, right? I had zero energy coming down. I couldn't trust my legs. I even gave up, right? It's like, told my guide, go ahead, forget about me. Let me die in the mountain. What happened, right? I was thinking about it. Why I felt so bad and so miserable, and I just, sort of kind of gave up. And it's because my body was burning carbs instead of fat. And that makes a big difference because on average, right, let's say a relatively fit person, sort of my height, my weight, I'm 5'8", about 155 pounds, I could have stored about 3,000 calories of carbs. However, the same token, I probably have stored right now about 30,000 calories of fat. And this is the big difference. If you're going for endurance, if you're going for mountaineering, you need to teach your body to burn fat, because you don't want to burn carbs Otherwise, you're going to run out of it. And when you need carbs for the high intensity, let's say there is a rock climbing part of the mountaineering trail, you need those carbs. So if you run out of them, and if you start eating bars or eating those gels, it's not going to be fast enough, or it's not even close to 3,000 calories to fill you up and give you time to actually perform. So, and this is really what happened to me. I was burning all my carbs, and I did. And all of a sudden, my body was like, okay, you're done, right? You have no fuel left in the tank. There's nothing I can do anymore. So you got to teach your body to burn fat. And there are several ways to do that. What I've found to make the most researched and proven method is to do very long, and I'm going to quote boring as well, but there are very long workouts at relatively low intensity. I'm not going to get into the details. I'll tell you where to go for the details about what I mean by low intensity, what I mean by long duration. But we're talking about a couple of hours on average a day, and your heart rate being at a pace that allows you to have a conversation, right? That you're not gasping for air like this. This is no good, right? This is like what is called zone 3, zone 4. You need to be at zone 1, zone 2. And again, I'll give you the sort of where the details and the literature is for the specifics, but that's what you need to do. And I've been doing this. I didn't do it in the first times that I tried Mount Washington, and then as I tried other mountains in Italy and in Canada, I felt much better. And I'm still a long ways to go, right? This is not something you train, for a month and your body adapts, right, to burn fat. This will take months. I'm going to go up for a good test now in 10 days in Mount Baker, because I've been putting my body through this kind of routine for the last 6 months, very consistently, nearly every day. So that's what you need to do, right? You need to have these long durations. So be ready. I'm sure if you don't have a Netflix account, right? Have a Disney Plus account, have a Hulu account, have Amazon Prime Video, because those workouts, those 2-hour, 3-hour workouts, if you are doing them at the gym, and again, for people like me, and I guess like us, you will do most of your training in the gym because you don't have time to go outdoors every day and do it. So you need a good selection of movies, because they're going to be long and they're going to be boring. Another trick that I've done, and I mentioned this in the previous podcast, is I have a treadmill in my office. I have a Peloton bike as well. They're both in my office. So what I do is, while I'm working, sometimes people have to put up with me on a video walking while I am having a meeting. I mean, could be like an hour meeting, could be a 2-hour meeting. That's great because I usually get most, if not all, of my workout done during and while I am actually working. So, you got to do what you got to do. I typically apologize to people if I start sweating. But that's not the point, right? Remember, because I have to be in zone 1, zone 2, I need to be able to have a conversation without gasp for air all the time. And that is cool because it allows me to work, allows me to have meetings while I am doing, I'm getting done that part of my workout. So this is really the most important part, right? Now, if I break the workout into sort of 3 pieces, like I've done, there is the cardio that I mentioned, right? Typically done indoors, because again, I don't have time to go outdoors every day. And it will work some muscles. It will get you that aerobic capacity that is needed, okay? Now, the second part is strength training. Again, the older you get, the more important strength training is. So you're going to lift some weights in the gym. I used to be very good at it. I competed in sort of bodybuilding competitions a few years ago. actually several years ago. But it's a different type of weight lifting, right? You want to be very specific to target the muscles that you're going to need. One thing that I also learned doing my research about the fitness part of mountaineering is if you work the right muscles, you become more efficient in terms of how you climb, how you even walk uphill. And by becoming more efficient, you save energy. So with stronger muscles, again, the right muscles, you become more efficient in every step you take. That means you save energy, you save calories, you have more fuel to run longer without feeling miserable or even stopping. So super important again. Not going to give you the specifics, but it's typically like twice a week. It's a short, relatively short. We're talking about 45 minutes to an hour workout. A lot of lower body, upper body, less so, but also super important. And what I've learned is core. I mentioned, I think in the previous podcast, when I came down from, my first 2 climbs, Mount Washington here in New Hampshire, I wanted to throw up, and I felt like, and I'm like, oh my God, why I want to throw up again. It happened the first two times I went there. And I was wondering, again, is it something I ate? Is it just because I worked out, for 12 hours going up and down, or 9 hours in the first time? And in reality, it wasn't neither of those. It was lack of core muscles. So my core was not strong enough. Think about, you're holding that backpack, or you're carrying the backpack, it could have easily 40 pounds in there. And you're going up and down. So you need your core to be very strong. And I wasn't, right? I wasn't that strong. And this is the feeling that I had, like I want to throw up. It was actually because my core was just done, right? So part of the strength, at least part of my strength training is, I would say 40-50% just core, right? Planks and all that boring stuff, but it's super important. So we talked a little bit about the cardio aspect and how you can do it indoors. Let's be realistic here. We cannot go outdoors, every single day, although it would be ideal. We talk about strength training and why it's important, and how it makes you more efficient when you are walking, when you're climbing uphill. And the last component that I put in my workout is outdoor training. Yes, and this is typically the weekends, of course, when we have time out of our normal jobs. And during the weekends, I will go outdoors, and I learn it changes how, it's just a different workout, right? It helps with your strength training, especially on the, they call it ME, right? Muscle endurance. It's not so much, look, I can squat 250 pounds with one leg, right? But it is, no, I can do, it's just one rep, right? But no, I can do actually 20 reps, and my muscle can endure a lot of work. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about strength training. And going outdoors, back to the outdoors part, is super important, right? Because if you find a hill or enough elevation around you, it's going to work different muscles than we do in the gym. You're going to step on rocks, the terrain changes, the angulation changes, and that I learned gives my body another push in terms of preparing for the fitness, right? And of course, cardio comes together. You will be able to measure how you are doing if you have an Apple Watch, if you're a Garmin, whatever. I am always tracking, what my heart rate is, and I can tell it these days, right? I've done it so many times that I can tell where pretty much I am. If I am still in the aerobic zone, meaning I'm burning fat, or if I went to anaerobic with my heart rate, typically goes higher than 140, it means, I am burning carbs, which is fine. I just want to make sure that I'm burning carbs for the right reasons. not because just because I'm walking, but because I'm doing something that requires my body to activate more energy. So that is sort of the components. Outdoor is typically, when I do it, all my workouts will take hours, and again, they're over the weekends. But we're talking about 4 or 5 hours hikes and climbs that I really challenge my body beyond what I've been training in the gym and in my office. So those are sort of the key components. Now, there are a ton of programs out there. I did a lot of research. I tried some of them out. I don't think they worked. I'm highly analytical, so I liked and I like the planning of some of these programs, but I also like all the analytics that comes with some of them. Others are more I'll say gut feel approach, but are less analytical, let's put it this way. So I like to have a very detailed plan. I like the explanation behind that plan, and I like to be able to track all my metrics, right, and my numbers. So a few things that, and currently, go out, check it out by yourself. I have no financial or any other interest in promoting anybody. I am working with the Uphill Athlete program. And there's a 24-week mountaineering fitness program. I found it to be very good. It integrates nicely with my Apple Watch. So I use my Apple Watch all the time because I like to track every single workout. So once it is tracked, right, I upload that into another app, right, that will measure sort of the intensity of that workout, and it will then align with my Uphill Athlete program. So what I use is something called Training Peaks, and it's an app. It's primarily for endurance athletes, but it's it can be adapted for a little bit for mountaineering. If you're thinking about running a marathon, Ironman. They have a way more, much more data about it than mountaineering, but the app itself is great. So it integrates, with the Apple Watch, integrates with, of course, the program, the Uphill Athlete program, and last but not least, I've also done two things, right? I've downloaded another app that tracks. It's called HRV4. And what it does, HRV stands for heart rate variability or variation, something like that. The point is, it measures how much, not my heartbeat is at rest, but it measures how much it varies. And scientifically, I've read a couple papers about it, research papers. It's nothing new, apparently. The higher the variability. So let's say your heart rate is at 55, but it's never at 55, right? Even if you're resting for like a minute, it will be 55. And then if you look at the, intervals within a second, it will vary to 56, 57, 54, 55. So it measures that variation, and the highest the variation, the let's say the fitter you are and the best your body is in terms of being able to fighting diseases, and overall condition. So it's super cool. It allows you to you see it if you do it every morning regularly, like right when I wake up, I do it. You can tell you're having a stressful day, not physically, but mentally. Your heart will tell. It's pretty cool. So I use that to see, hey, this is my day. I've overtrained yesterday. My body is not in a good shape, right? So perhaps I should take it a little easy today. Otherwise, I'm going to get injured. So that's another good one for you guys. HRV, there are many apps there. I just use my phone and put my finger on the light right near the camera, and it takes the measurement. And then you correlate that with your, if you're traveling the day before, it's amazing, right? It again, our heart picks up everything. The last part is something called Lumen, It's a startup in Israel. And I try them out. It's interesting what it does. It's Lumen, by the way, Lumen. It measures your the ratio of O2 and CO2 between your inspiration and your expiration. So when the ratio changes, and it measures whether your body is burning fat or carbs or right in the middle. This is really something that, so I bought it, right? I think it cost like $300 for 6 months. It was useful at the beginning, to be honest, but I would not recommend it for this purpose. I think they are, and not I think, if you go through the website and you look at the product and how it's designed, it's much more for weight management than for training. So I found a variation between what I was burning to be too high for me. Also, they provide you this is your, what you should eat today based on how your body is working in the morning and then after and before workouts. And again, this is not really the purpose, right? I'll use another podcast to talk a little bit about diet. But this is not the intent. This is not why they built their product. So I guess this is why it wasn't super helpful for me for this. Anyway, now I need to return it, but I paid. So those are sort of the tools that I've used. Again, Uphill Athlete have very good programs. Those guys know what they're talking about. I mean, they have a great podcast as well. I've listened to many episodes. They get really, really technical into the training part and the fitness. So if you're into that, I strongly recommend. But you can stick to my, sort of 3-pronged approach: the cardio, typically indoors, right? The strength training, muscle endurance, and core. And then, of course, the outdoor part, which would be like longer workouts where you put everything together, right? So this is sort of my approach. It's similar to theirs, by the way. But I think I'm a little bit more practical. Of course, you have, again, back the tools that I mentioned: HRV, measure how well your body is adapting and is receiving the training, and kind of gives you an idea if you're going to get injured, you're going to get sick in the day ahead. So this is sort of the fitness component, and I started with it because, again, this is by far, I think, the most important thing in mountaineering. Once you get that fitness part out of the way, the next step, and I'll cover this in the next episode, perhaps we'll talk about dieting and mental fitness, right? And I can talk about it, just giving up my life in the last climbs, and just, tell my guide, leave me here alone to die, save yourself, right? What the hell? We can talk about it. I've heard and I've done some tricks to kind of keep pushing yourself. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the diet that goes together with the fitness part that helps your body train for to burn that fat before it goes after the carbs. That's also, there are some tricks about that, and including this guy who climbed Everest like 7 times, Adrian. I'm going to butcher his last name, Bolligier. You can look him up. And when he failed, he was doing without oxygen, right? Why he changed his diet as well. Not so much his training. I mean, the guy was obviously super fit for this. And that's the only thing he does, right? Again, goes back to my problem, being these Red Bull athletes that will give you some advice. The guy is like an alien. So perhaps I will take some advice from him, but it's not really applicable, right? He doesn't need to have a treadmill in his office while he's doing Zoom calls all day. But I'll give you some of those tips later when we talk about diet and mental fitness for mountaineering, and that's going to be in the next episode. Thank you very much. Talk to you guys later.